On today's Community Wednesday, let's break down the PKM. I've talked about the PKM quite a lot, and even showed you a few different builds, like the one with FMJ. I've always had it as a recommended weapon, but I never had a stat guide. So finally, let's break it down and see if it's still worth using. In this build, we'll be using the monolithic suppressor, 25.9-inch heavy barrel, tack laser, VLK 3.0 times sight if you're on PC, and holographic sight if you're on console, and the snatch grip. So let's get into the stats, starting with mobility. Its ADS time is 350 milliseconds, which isn't the greatest, but on the PKM, it doesn't matter that much. And we'll get into why later in the damage section. Its reload and reload add times are 8.79 seconds, whether it's empty or one bullet in the mag. So if you want, you can just empty the whole thing. It will not make a difference. You can bring it down to a little over 6 seconds if you have sleight of hand. But that means you would be missing out on an ADS attachment, and I don't recommend that. Its mag cap is 100, but with its long reload time, it doesn't feel like it's enough. But again, getting a bigger mag would mean sacrificing an ADS attachment. Its movement and sprint speeds are really low. They are not good at all, and this is kind of expected for a heavy LMG. And its ADS strafe speed is also extremely low, so don't try to run around the map with this, and don't try to strafe in close quarters. And with the sprint out and tack sprint out time of 370 milliseconds, you shouldn't even be attempting to sprint out with this either. Its stability is 1.5 T though, and that's really great for long range. But with a bullet velocity of 1000 meters per second, this is pretty decent for long range. It's like the AMAX back in the day. We could definitely get the bullet velocity a bit higher, but it wouldn't be worth the sacrifice we have to make for ADS time. And lastly, its rate of fire is 12.5 rounds per second or 750 rounds per minute, so it gets a mobility score of 24. For its recoil, it does suffer with the Modern Warfare problem of bouncing. However, it is pretty low on the PKM, and with its straight vertical recoil, it's extremely easy to use. So, accounting for the bouncing, you can easily use this up to 155 meters. So it gets a recoil score of 47. Now for its damage. It has a drop-off point at 47 meters. Its headshot TTK is below average, but its upper torso, lower torso, and limb TTKs are all above average. And this is really great because even with the open bolt delay of 66 milliseconds, if you're already aiming down sights and just getting ready for someone to walk in, you could easily take them out. And in the second damage range, all its TTKs are above average. This means you'll be winning a lot of gunfights. And with this super easy to control recoil, you're going to be finding that you're getting great TTKs a lot of the time. And thanks to its damage value, it's always going to be pretty consistent. So it gets a damage score of 75. And when we add up all the categories, it gets a final score of 146. This is a pretty great score for any weapon. Great recoil, great damage, and pretty okay mobility. But why doesn't everyone use the PKM? And the problem is its reload speed. Even with sleight of hand, 6 seconds is quite a lot. And even with a coordinated team, you can't always guarantee that someone can cover you while you reload. And of course, its movement and sprint speeds aren't the greatest, but honestly, if you have a good mobility sidearm or SMG, that doesn't really matter. So how do we get around the reload problem? And honestly, it's just playing in a group. Like, this weapon is really great, and any squad could use it, as long as you're willing to have someone cover you, or you cover your friends. And you definitely shouldn't be running more than one per squad, otherwise, it's gonna be pretty easy to ambush you. Either when everyone's reloading at the same time, or when your teammates have to wait for you to finish reloading before you move on to the next spot. Other than that though, the PKM is a great choice. It can be used up close, if planned right, and definitely at longer ranges. And especially after 100 meters, it's one of the best weapons. So if you're engaging targets under 100 meters, the MG82 is probably going to be a better bet. But if you want a general all-purpose machine gun, the PKM is going to be a great choice. Just remember to have a friend or two covering your back when you reload. So that's the PKM. Were you surprised by the score it got, or do you know that the PKM was going to be that good? And if there's any weapon build or part of the game you want me to break down, let me know and you may see it on the next Community Wednesday. Thanks for watching.